there is still hope in the darkness.
Yes, there is hope. Welcome to Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, episode number 3. This is Uncle Neal's Neighborhood, home for the mentally unique. No, wait a minute. Home for all things avuncular. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Got out long before the communist mayor turned it into Venezuela on the Hudson. But seriously, I loved growing up in New York. So much talent came out of Brooklyn. There was Neil Diamond, Neil Sedaka, Barbra Streisand. Larry David was in my graduating class at Sheepshead Bay High School. Just go to the 1965 yearbook and you'll see me and Larry David. Not on the same page. It went alphabetically. I remember in Brooklyn, almost every block had a band rehearsing in their garage. Or, if you were an unlucky neighbor, it would be in the projects, some drummer practicing his skills day in and day out. But it was alive. People were alive. Talent was all over the place. Not that that's not happening now, but it seemed to me it was much freer back then. I was a very happy, carefree type of kid. Still am, despite knowing what I know about the rabbit hole. So, where was the beginning of all this rabbit hole business? Probably happened around 1964 or 5, whenever it was. I was in high school when John F. Kennedy got shot. We all knew right off the bat that something was screwy, that whatever we were hearing on the news wasn't quite the whole story. And then about the same time, Martin Luther King was shot, and then Bobby Kennedy was shot, and the Vietnam War was really looking as though it had nothing to do with stopping communism. Then I started getting a little bit further down that old rabbit hole. I started reading about the Federal Reserve and about the Rockefeller family and what they've done in terms of the medical profession and education. Things were getting weirder and weirder, and I didn't know if I'd ever find a way out. And it was about the early 1970s when I got my first recording contract. And little by little, I started writing songs that the record companies weren't that happy to promote. I just couldn't keep my mind off of what was going on in the world and how strange it was. So eventually, I just had to start my own record company, and then I can record and write anything I wanted to, and nobody could tell me no. Of course, then I had to market my own music, and that was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. But I was free to dive deep into that rabbit hole. So what's in that rabbit hole? Well, I'm sure most of you know. We got the Kennedy assassination, we got the CIA, we got Q, we got all these theories about Trump taking over control of the Federal Reserve and putting watermarks on ballots. And, of course, 9/11, that was a big one. And now, currently, we have the January 6th insurrection. And, of course, the media is quick to call anything they don't agree with a conspiracy theory, which is a term made popular by the CIA back in the 60s, just to discredit anything like, the Kennedy assassination, which it's possible they might have had something to do with, you think? But some of these theories are true, some of these theories are not true, some of them have a little bit of truth. So how the hell are you supposed to know what's true and what isn't? Good question. Of course, the best way to know is to have personal experience. I've had some personal experience with major stories that came out in newspapers, and I was actually either there or knew somebody who was very personally involved, somebody I could trust, a good friend. And then you can match that up with what the news was saying, and boy, is that an eye-opener. Last few years, I've been hearing a lot of stories about how Hollywood and the record industry was in bed with the devil. Practicing Satanism and, using all these symbols, Illuminati symbols and satanic symbols. And I'm sure there's a certain amount of truth to that. Whether or not you believe in the devil, it doesn't matter. Somebody could certainly be practicing what they consider Satanism. But I had a little bit of experience with the music industry. Of course, this was back in the 70s and 80s mostly. And my experience was that most of these guys, the executives in the record industry, they didn't know shit about the devil. I mean, they were just there to make a buck. Some of them were really into music. They loved music and they wanted to promote it and run it as a business. And then a little bit later, as the whole hippie movement and FM radio started, a lot of these record executives would start hiring actual hippies to be their A&R department. And none of these guys knew diddly about Satan or the devil. I mean, they were just suits, smoking cigars and saying, the kid's got talent, let's put him on the road and put out a record, see what happens. My own personal opinion is that all these stars who are using Illuminati symbols and devil worship symbols in their acts are basically just doing it for shock value. I doubt if they're truly Satanists or give a crap about the devil. It's just a question of how hip can we look? We got to shock people now. But still, many of these conspiracy theories and shocking stories turn out to be true. And that's where the monkey wrench gets thrown into everything. There's a certain truth that goes something like this. The more horrible the crime, the less likely it is to be believed. That's how the Nazis got away with what they were doing for so many years, and that's how the politicians who are into human trafficking and pedophilia are getting away with it. The news outlets won't even report it. Of course, many times the news outlets are even involved in some of this. To wit, CNN, the path to truth leads down many dead ends. But once you put your foot on that path, you have to go all the way. Otherwise, you won't be able to sleep nights. Unless you're heavily sedated. Here's a song from my Unhinged album called That Rabbit Hole. It's a tough path, but it is vital. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Only a few find the way. Some don't recognize it when they do. Some don't ever want to.
I'm not crazy. My reality is just different than yours. I wish creatures wouldn't be so easily offended.
The moral of the story, if there is one,
some that rabbit hole goes way too deep.
Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?
That depends a good deal on where you want to get to.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
Who in the world am I? That's the great puzzle.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
And you will be
Off
happy.
with their heads.
With their heads.
Off with their
Off
heads.
with their heads. It was almost normal for people over 50 to be frightened of their own children.
I stand and I stare at the cold night sky. My feet finally back on the ground. I speak to the wind, but there's no reply. With everything hung upside down, I'm cold, I'm tired. It was my innocence they stole. Though it's courage you lack, you can never turn back. After climbing down that rabbit hole.
All right, so what do you do if you're a seeker of truth and you see all this crap happening in the world? Does that mean you got to be serious and depressed and always worried and always talking about how bad things are and what you got to do to fix it and never get your head out of it? Let me introduce you to a word called insouciance. The dictionary says it's a noun, casual lack of concern, indifference. Yes, lighthearted. Now, I'm no expert on the Bible, but I'm pretty sure I remember a quote from Jesus who said, "Be in the world, but not of it." Oh, I don't know, maybe that was Maya Baba. I have no idea. I don't study these things enough to memorize them. But it's very true, whoever said it. And I think what that means is being in the world, know what's going on. Don't hide your eyes. Don't turn your back. Don't not do anything about it. But don't be so stuck in it that it mires you down to the point where you can't act. And all you want to do is drug yourself up or drink yourself into a stupor just to forget about it. Forgetting about it does not make it go away. So you need to take action when you see something wrong. You need to do something about it. You know, write letters or emails to your congressman, give them a phone call. It really doesn't matter if you do call them, by the way. And start finding things that are right. Find little things that have been successful, little wins. Take the wins when you get them. A lot of good things are going on in the world. People are waking up. People are finding out what's going on. People are taking action. There's a ton of good things. And don't forget to get outside, get away from your phone, get away from your desk, turn off the computer or at least get away from it. Go out and take a walk. Look around. I don't care how cold it is or how hot it is. Just get out, even if it's only 10 minutes. Go say hello to somebody you never met before. And then come back and continue the search for truth. Yeah, so how do you find the truth? I know, that's a good question. Everybody wonders about that because there are so many ideas out there that are just so strange, it's hard to believe. Well, there's a few things you can do. First, go to a source you can trust. You know, somebody that's been getting it right most of the time, somebody that's not, that doesn't have a flair for the dramatic. You know, that doesn't mean they're wrong. I've listened to Alex Jones for many years. He gets way over the top. He gets a little dramatic. But that doesn't mean he's always wrong. But you do have to watch out that you don't fall into this, the sky is falling, in every single episode. Because, frankly, it's not. Most of the things we worry about never happen. I was reminded the other day of an old comedian named Bob Newhart who had a psychiatrist bit he used to do. A woman came in and she was complaining, "Oh, I'm depressed about this, and my husband left me, and this is happening, and I'm worried about this, and I'm worried about that." And then she waits for him to give some worldly advice, and he looks at her and he goes, "Stop it!" That was the advice. Don't do that. Stop it. You know, it's like you walk in and you look at your finger and you show the finger to the doctor and say, "Doc, it hurts when I do that." And the doctor says, "So don't do that."
This show brought to you by Milk, the perfect food.
M-I-L-K. It makes you potent. Milk is good.
This show is not brought to you by Milk. This show is sponsored by me. Yes, me. I've got a new album out. It's called Unhinged. It's getting the best reviews of my entire music career, and I've been in the music business for over 50 years. So go to my website, therealnealfox.com. That's Neal. Spell it with an A, not with an I, and I'll be your best friend. And you can stream it on Spotify and Apple Music and all kinds of streaming platforms. And you could download it, you could buy it, you could help me out. You could go over to my website and get some merch. I make all my own t-shirt designs, and that's about it. Oh yeah, you can follow me or friend me or subscribe or like or anything like that. YouTube.com/Neal Fox, Rumble.com/probably Neal Fox, I don't know. And anything you want to do, just share this, let your friends know, help me out. I could use a little help because I've been drinking way too much milk. Thanks. All right, so that rabbit hole was from the Unhinged album, but right now I like to play a song from an album I did 6 years ago called The Conspiracy Project. You could find it on my website or on YouTube or many other places. It was actually a documentary and song that I created, and I got it into a bunch of film festivals and won a few awards. I'm very happy about that. It's an hour and a half long, and it has 17 songs, so I'm just going to play you one of my songs called There's a Darkness.
There's something in the air that's going round. It's building like a fire out of control. And there's poison in the sea and in the ground. And it won't be long before the final toll. And the sun is growing dimmer every day. There's a haze upon the earth and in my soul. It's so easy to be fooled and lose your way. And you're never going to find a darker hole. And it covers up the truth and makes me angry. And I got to stand and fight because there's nowhere else to go. And it grabs me by the heart and says there's nothing you can do. Go back to sleep. There's a darkness when they got your soul to keep. The air is getting hard for me to breathe. And my lungs and heart and mind can feel the heat. There are things that seem too hard to be believed. As the clouds spell out the words of our defeat. the darkness in the air will fade away, and one day we'll be marching in the street. And I only want a life that makes me happy, to live in peace and harmony and reap what I have sown, to see my children smile at me and know that they are safe when they're asleep. But there's a darkness when they got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep. There's a darkness when they've got your soul to keep.
And one day we'll be marching in the street. Well, that day has come. Look at the news. I mean, the alternative news. And you're going to see in so many countries of the world, people are standing up and fighting back. And that's what it takes. Just as I'm recording this, the Supreme Court of the United States has struck down Let's Go Brandon's mandated vaccines. They said it was unconstitutional. And you know what? Even an idiot could have told you that. And yet, the Supreme Court has one or two idiots. Justice Sotomayor said that there was 100,000 kids hospitalized and on ventilators and sick and all that kind of stuff. Turns out it's nothing like that. And the CDC has just announced that 40% of the people that were claimed to have died from COVID didn't die from COVID. Oh, my.
Oh, my.
Yeah, they didn't die of COVID. They might have died with COVID, but if you get shot in the head, you know, if you happen to be living in Chicago, you can't call that a COVID-related death. So there is good news everywhere as you look. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for now. That is the end of the third episode of Uncle Neal's Neighborhood. I'm so glad you came here and listened to all this crap that I'm spewing. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you tell your friends about it, share it, give me some feedback. I'd like to see what your thoughts are. And that's it for now. Just remember, if you're feeling a little down, go out and find somebody who could use a little help. It's the best way to help yourself. Love you guys. Bye for now.